probably heard of REST, R-E-S-T, and RESTful design. If you haven't, I highly recommend looking into it, because I know for me, it has changed the way I use Rails and improved my code a lot. What it does is it restricts your controllers to just 7 actions. So for example here, I call map.resources in the routes file and specify the name of the controller I want to use, in this case tasks, and then bam, suddenly that controller is RESTful. And that adds a lot of benefits like named routes, but it also adds restrictions. So in my tasks controller here, it restricts my controller to just these 7 actions, so that's the only actions I can use. I was surprised at how well this works actually. At first when I heard about it, I didn't think that it would be possible or practical to use just 7 actions, but now I realize that it keeps the controllers clean, simple, and consistent, and so I highly recommend taking up this practice. But sometimes you do actually need to add another method besides one of these 7, and I'll show you how to do that. First, let's get started. This is our tasks controller, so we're editing, managing task models. And we have an index action which displays all of the incomplete tasks. Now let's say we want another action to display all of the tasks which are completed, not just the ones that are incomplete. So we need to create a new action here, call it completed, and then find all the tasks which are already complete. Now the task model has a completed at column, and so completed at is not null. Alright, so there's our action, and I already generated the view for this, so I don't have to bore you with that. But this will not work yet. If you try to go to the completed action, it doesn't work because it's actually trying to call the show action, which is up here, and trying to fetch a task with the ID of completed. That obviously doesn't work. So what we need to do is actually mention that we created this new completed action in our routes file over here. And the way we do that is we call collection. Now you can either choose member or collection. In this case we want to use collection because we're dealing with many models. Collection, and then that takes a hash, and so we call complete. We pass the name of the new action that we created, and the HTTP request, the type of request that we want to use for accessing this action. In this case, it's just a GET request, because we're just fetching data. So we successfully added this completed action, and you actually use a semicolon in this version of Rails. In the Edge Rails, it is a /, but here, semicolon completed. And then we get to our completed tasks action. So that's how you add your own custom actions. So let me try adding a link for the completed tasks. Go back to our incomplete tasks over here, and we can go to that index page, and let me add a link for going to this new completed tasks. Completed tasks page. And the reason I want to show you this is because it adds a named route when you specify a collection here. In this case, you call completed tasks path. Isn't that cool or what? So you get this free named route which automatically goes to that URL. So you just reload this, completed tasks, automatically goes to the completed tasks path. So in this case, it's the name of the action followed by the plural controller name, so on. Let me do one more thing. Let's say I want to mark a task as completed. In this case, I want another action. Let's call it complete. And this will be performed on an individual task. So I'll fetch that. And then I want to update the attribute of the created at column, or no, completed at, to the time now, the current time. Let me add a flash. Updated marked task as complete. And then redirect to the completed tasks path. How about? Okay. So now this should go to our completed task path after we mark the task as complete. Now again, because this is a custom action, we need to mention it in this map.resources. And in this case, it's not a collection. If it was, we would add it here. But it's actually a member because we're performing this on one task. And then we just specify the name, just like we did before, and specify the type of HTTP request. Because we're actually updating our model, I want to use a put request. Now, the last step is to create a link to mark the task as complete. So going back to our incomplete tasks, link to mark as complete. And then this also generated a custom route file, a named route. So it's very similar. You just call complete task path and then pass the task to it. And we also need to make this a put request. So define the method as put. There we go. Now we have our mark is complete method. Let's try it out. Go to our incomplete tasks. Have this mark as complete. Click it. It marks the task as complete and displays it here. I'll try it again. Mark as complete, pull weeds, shows up in our completed tasks. So that's how you can customize the RESTful routes and add whatever actions you need. Now I do caution you though, make sure that that action really does belong in that controller, because there are often possibilities of adding another model, a secondary model, and creating a second controller and having the actions go in there and having it work with those restricted 7 actions. For example, let's say in this case I wanted to add this, but I add it as a completion model. So add a second model, call it completion, have it belong to a task, and have it created at time field. And then I could just create a completions controller, and then to display all the completed tasks, I could have the index action do that. And then to mark a task as complete, I could have the create action do that. But in this case, I think since it's so simple with just a completed at column in the tasks table, I think I'll just stick with that. But that is an open possibility, and so it's a nice thing to keep in mind whenever you are creating custom actions inside of your controller. Always think of, can I make this a second model? So that's how you add more actions to your controller. Hope you found this useful. If you have any comments about this episode, hop on over to RailsCasts.com and you can add comments there. Also, if you have any suggestions, email me at feedback@railscasts.com. Thanks for watching.